So it's 8 o'clock, and we may have some slower comers just because of what Thursday this is in the year. But I want to welcome everyone here, and good to see you at the intersection this morning. I think I'm going to just kind of push aside any announcements. We're going to, take up every moment we can with Judge Wolff this morning. And so I think we're just going to begin. So Nelson, you and I can even point to the exact date, met for the very first time on St. Patrick's Day, 1994.
Yeah.
And so everybody can do their own math. I won't do that for everybody, but I came into your office and we were planning the San Antonio Gang Peace Summit. And you hadn't heard about it yet, and people had encouraged me to tell you all about it. And I remember Cindy Cryer was there as well. And Cindy at one point looked at you and said, Nelson, you've been asking for the faith community to step up all these years, and now here they are. What are you going to do with that? And so I'm really, first of all, a real general question. So how many years of public service will this be for you?
Well, I first worked on the floor of the Texas House 51 years ago, but in between I was out. I had little failures at politics for sure. I was out of office for like 13 years. So I think I've served about 22, about 34 years, give or take, 33, 34 in office. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Was there anything or any person in particular that inspired you, informed you into doing public service? What is that part in your life that pulled you this way?
What triggered it? We were starting a business, and I was going to law school 3 days a week, and that was the beginning of it. The tragic death of President Kennedy really, and he was sort of the hope of our generation. I'm 23, 24 years old, and that was sort of the spark. I got involved and became a president of the law school class, and that was sort of the beginning of it. Inspired by Kennedy, and then the terrible tragedy of him being assassinated. In fact, we stood on the street corners of Roosevelt when he was here to speak at Brooks just a day or two before. So I think that did it more than anything.
Mm-hmm. Were you at Brooks when he came and spoke?
No, I was not. No, we had our little company was right there on Roosevelt, 919 Roosevelt, abandoned filling station, and they happened just to come by there going to Brooks. That's the only place I saw him.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we've been doing as a faith community and community together is recognizing, especially now, how community, how we all can suffer trauma together, collective trauma, and the ways that we heal then as community. And part of that is the telling of our stories. And generally there are, people who've made a significant difference, or there was an event or several, that kind of turned us. And I remember his assassination, and I'm sure everybody here pretty much will remember that as well as a turning point.
Yeah, it was. And of course, the 60s ended up being a pretty bad time for the country. But, I think I'm not a member of any specific religion, but I went to St. Mary's University. And in fact, I'm going to be devoting a good bit of my time to working with the students there and working on some public policy issues that St. Mary's may get involved in. But really, I think it was Bill Crane who was a professor back then, and I think that was the foundation. The amazing things about religion, at least from my perspective, looking out, is really, I think, setting the standards for morality, for how we interact with each other, how we can maybe be better citizens. I think that religious, and I've always been thankful to St. Mary's for that, is a huge benefit to society.
It's good to hear that you're going to continue serving, but in a very different way.
Yes.
That's exciting. Yeah. Are you going to take some rest though?
No.
No.
I think rest weakens you.
See, you and I both know that you were baptized in a Lutheran church.
That's
and
right.
so yeah, we got
Right.
a good work ethic inside, like no rest, right? For the weary.
Well,
you just gotta keep moving. Yeah, I'm cut the same way. I'm cut the same way.
Remember you were back then, 90s, with I think it was Reverend Thompson and yourself that started the coalition. And that's when we were having all the youth violence, drive-by shootings. Today it seems sort of simple, the negative things that were impacting youth. We all worked on, whether it was the primetime television shows or what a lot of different issues. The strip club I tried to close, but we were trying to do the things that would help youth, the coalition, all those things. And I think back now, that was almost 30 years ago, what youth go through today with the horrible things they see and hear on social media. I think it was probably, looking back now, when we thought that was so bad, that it was probably, not anywhere near or as dangerous as it is today, what youth are going through with the guns, or it's just a tough time, I think, to bring up young people today with the things that happen on social media and then spill off into the public with this, trying to take over the Capitol. It's just a lot of madness out there today, much more madness out there than I think we had in the 90s.
Things have really changed in those almost 30 years. Looking back over your years of service, are there a couple things that you, I don't necessarily see you a man of pride, but the things that you are most proud that you were a part of, that you feel the strongest about? And maybe you might even share your biggest, not failure, but oh my gosh, I can't believe I actually did that type of thing. Closing a strip club, there's a thing. But
I've had my share of failures.
Maybe the funniest one you can think of, but I'm most interested in, what do you consider the real marks of your time in public service?
Well, we've done a lot of major projects that I'm proud of, particularly in the environmental deal with the mission reach of the river, and then the San Pedro Creek now, and then the creek programs we're doing, and setting aside a huge amount of land, starting with Government Canyon when I was mayor. So I'm proud of that work that we all did together. What we've done with Bibliotech and trying to reach kids that didn't have internet connectivity, and trying to teach them how to use the technology and providing books and information. But the one thing that sort of transcends from mayor to county judge is the societal problems that we have with drugs, and what we have with mental health, our criminal justice system. We put in a lot of time creating drug courts, doing things like Doug has stated, trying to solve or trying to help some of the problems that we face with mental health. We've done a number of things. I think over 1/3 of our funding that we got through the ARPA funding from the federal government, we put into public health. And I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for the future. We've set aside a tremendous amount of money and started a number of programs, but it's going to be up to the next commissioner's court to implement those programs. And as we know, when the pandemic came, we weren't ready for it. And it's still ongoing today. We see what's happening in China. I keep up with the numbers every day. We're up to almost a little over 200 people in the hospital right now. So it's ongoing. And mental health and drug abuse, overlie those things. And I think that's going to be our biggest challenge as we, move into the future.
Yeah. I'm wondering, Doug, maybe you could share a bit with others. You were doing it before we started at 8, but how the judge has been so important and supportive to the community in mental health. You want to share that a bit?
Sure. I think, first of all, I'll say that, I've been doing this work on a volunteer basis for well over 10 years, and I did not think we would have as many initiatives in our community, both city and county, as we have going on right now. There's a much greater public awareness of mental health. And I started out by thanking Judge Wolff for helping us start Pathways to Hope, which was our effort to bring everybody in the community together, get out of the silos, and begin to have a conversation about mental health and help destigmatize mental health. We did that. It was Judge Wolff came the first year. It was we had over 1,000 people. We've had over 1,000 people every year, and it really told me the community was ready to come together and needed to come together and need access to care. So that was one thing. When Damian Daniels was shot, and I wrote Judge Wolff and said that was a message to every NAMI family that if you call the police, your loved one may not make it, and we need to do better. And immediately, you responded with the formation of the Criminal Justice and Behavioral Health Task Force, which to me was one of the most important things we've done with mental health, because again, we formed 5 subcommittees. We brought everybody across the community, leaders and community members together. And the things that came out of that committee, we are still working on, but everything from the SASH campus and the possibility of using it, a new site. We just finished a psychiatric study, feasibility study on a psychiatric hospital, how to handle patients at the jail who have criminal or have mental illness. I could go down a long list. And as I said before, NACO, the National Alliance of Counties officials, is coming in late January, early February to look at Bexar County. People from all over the United States, will be about 30 people looking to see, well, how does San Antonio do this? And I point to people at NAMI nationally and say, our community does a better job probably collaborating than almost any community I can think of, and at a high level. And so I think that you in particular have set that tone of community engagement and collaboration. Your leadership has just been off the chart. So again, thank you for being who you are and for caring. That's the first step, and you've cared. Thank you.
Well, the efforts that Doug and them doing, if you can get in the front end of this and help people before they trip over, that's the critical work I believe that Doug and them are doing. But what I see from where I sit, I see the bad end of it when it gets into the criminal justice system. We've got some really good partners, Lifetime Recovery. We're funding, I think, $8 million out there to expand their scope. I like to go out there. It's in the old Bexar County facility over on the south side, and the guys that have run it are the same people that have gone through a lot of the trauma, whether it's drugs or mental health or whatever. And so we think that's a good program. We got a new one setting up on the east side of town for women and young children. And then, the judges have done a great job. I think we've created 13 or 14 specialty courts dealing with issues like this, and they try to help them before they go. We got mental health diversion programs, but we still have a long way to go. It's what Doug was talking about, Daniel. That was such a tragedy thing. The cops, the sheriff, and then went out, not the sheriff, but the deputies went out there, and he was in his own house. He was a veteran, never had a history of any criminal acts. They go into and get him in a scuffle and they kill him. And so what we did there, we stopped law enforcement from going out, and we created a mobile unit that's made up of mental health experts to go out on cases like this rather than law enforcement. But that was just a tragedy. We've had several other tragedies, 2 people dying in jail because of mental health issues. And but the criminal, in a derogatory way, I've referred to it as the criminal industrial conspiracy. Everybody trying to make money off of it, lawyers and bail bondsmen, and it's a hard nut to crack. But and it's harder with the state, where they think we ought to throw everybody in jail. So it's criminal justice is better, but it's still got a good ways to go, I believe.
And you can also say that we weren't ready for the pandemic, but we were more prepared perhaps in a lot of other communities in terms of the work that had been done with mental health. And we still have a long ways to go, but it's good to see that there's investment in that direction. And we see from the community and lots of collaboration going and community commitment. And we've really seen a lot of partnering across, the community and civic leadership in the last years. And that's what we want to see from the community end. And I know that that's what our leaders want to see as well. Also, before you got on, Paul, are you still there? I'm sure he is, but Nelson has received an award, but he's still up for another one. Paul, you want to say something about that?
As I've been listening to what the judge and Doug have been talking about, I've been rewriting and updating the nomination material. Very briefly, the local branch of the social workers, called the Alamo Area Branch of the National Association of Social Workers Texas chapter, selected Judge Wolff as our public elected official of the year for 2022. And we nominated him for the statewide consideration as well. We're one of 27 branches, and lo and behold, they agreed with us, and Judge Wolff is the Texas-wide selectee for a public elected official. And there's one more step, and that'll be sometime this between now and summer. We'll be nominating him for a national consideration. Let me just mention briefly that we have one other person this morning here who's been awarded the national award, a public citizen, and that happens to be a Reverend Ann Helmke for 2014. So San Antonio has already set the standard, but what we're doing now is to update Judge Wolff's nomination package with all the wonderful things that have occurred and the contributions during this past year. And so I'm just so grateful this morning to be able to, I'm just taking notes like crazy, and we'll be working with Judge Wolff's staff to update the nomination in the next few weeks.
Oh, thank you very much.
So we can all cheer that too as well. So,
yeah.
So I'm wondering, Judge, with things being more complex frankly, than they were almost 30 years ago when we thought they were pretty complex. But taking in from your work, taking in all of the different community concerns, the criminal justice system, all that you have been covering and taking care of on behalf of the rest of us, how do you stay resilient in that? What do you do to kind of refuel, or how do you stay strong? How have you done that all these years?
Well, I guess that's a hard one to, because you do have a lot of failures along the way and a lot of controversy, and certainly happened during COVID. That was really tragic as it evolved along and became so political, and the governor and everybody politicized and led to the deaths of a lot of other people. So you get down when those things happen. But I think, you try to focus on the things that you see as positive steps forward. I think you try to focus on that positive and try to, overcome the negative things that happen to you, whether it's personal attacks or whether it's, a failure in policy, or whether there's some politician that's demagoguing. That upsets me probably as much as anything does. And I've seen that with some of our state leaders, including the governor. That I just get so angry. It's so bad. As a former member of the House and the Senate, I have floor privileges. I can go on to the floor of either any. I couldn't even bring myself to go up to the legislature last year. That's how negative feelings I have toward what's happening up there. And then you try to focus on the good things that are happening and not get too down on what you think are bad.
So just staying focused, and I bet family has a lot to do with it too in your case. But,
well, yeah, we're very fortunate. Tracy and I have 6 children, and we've got 8 grandchildren, and all of them are functional. They're doing well. We haven't had any serious problems. We're very fortunate for that. Yeah, they're a source of fun and inspiration. Yeah.
So from your perspective, kind of looking into even next week, right? But looking into the future in terms of leadership in San Antonio, whoever those leaders might be, faith, community, civic, business leaders, health leaders, there's a role, as you know, of leadership. So from your perspective, looking into that future last fall, what do you think is most needed from leaders in San Antonio and Baird County working forward, marching forward?
As I mentioned, just touched on it, that the public health issues are going to be the biggest one, I think. We did stand up a new department within the county focusing on preventive health issues. We've hired the executive director of it. Should be assembling a team that will try to get out front on some things before people, get in serious trouble health-wise, not just mental, but other issues, whether it's diabetes or cardiovascular problems, trying to get out front on preventive health issues. So we hope that that's going to go good. We've put 30 million in with, I think we put about 14 million in this department over the next few years, 30 million into a new public health facility that would be out by Texas A&M that our hospital district, the Bexar County Hospital District, will do. And so that'll be standing up and getting going. And then we put in 10 million for a new public health school between UTSA and UT Health that will be coming online. They've already hired the person that's going to head up that school. So that's going to be another positive step. we're continuing to invest money in our hospital system. The new Children and Women's Hospital will open up in August of this year. I took a tour of it just a week or so ago. So all of these building blocks that we're doing with public health and whether, I roll into that drug programs and mental health programs. I think we got about 30, we put 30 million into various mental health programs. So to me, that's the biggest challenge. And then the one that is, there's no answer to it other than you just have to keep up your vigilance, is this whole spewing of hate and not just by social media, but by some politicians also. I think it's been a real derogatory piece of our history. You see it, it's kind of like if you're, well, anyway, I get too too upset about it, but I think that has to be changed. And the only way I know you can do that is continuing dialogue and try to, rescue truth from the abyss of social media, all the nasty things that come out on it. And the people that have personally attacked me, they were just mouthing what they heard over social media. They lied about vaccines causing number of death in our last ending toward the end of the pandemic area, the real danger part of COVID. When we had vaccines, people chose not to take them. Almost everybody that died had refused to take a vaccine. Almost, I think 80 or 90% of the people in the hospital did not take the vaccine. And it was just all the lies that they listened to and they believed. And really, really sad commentary. I know that the 60s, were a violent area because things were changing to assassinations, 3 assassinations. But this here is more of a, ingrained negative stuff that's happening in our society. And that's an issue. That's a big one also. I don't have a real answer for that one, but it's pretty nasty out there with a number of people.
So what I hear in that is, to stay positive and look for the good and keep modeling that and stay strong and truth speaking and clarity. Those are the things I hear. If it's okay with you, do you have a couple more minutes to share with us? Okay. I kind of wanted to open it up even a little bit more if people wanted to make comment. I know Dwayne woke up early, Robinson, just to come and hear you. So I'm hoping Dwayne will say something, but I'd like to hear from folks. One of the things I've been seeing in chat is the gratitude for you and the mayor doing your daily bit during the pandemic and how important that was to the community. And so I think we all want to say thank you for that, because it's a struggle. I mean, it's a commitment. I'll say that's a commitment to show up once a week on Thursday morning, but showing up pretty much every day for a couple of years, that takes commitment. So Dwayne, you want to chime in, as you would say? I'd love to hear some comments from you, and others, if you want to. Could you just raise your hand in the Dwayne?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And Judge Wolff, I did not get a chance to come down to Commissioner's Court for the last meeting, and I had every intention to make it down there. Kevin and I were trying to coordinate something, but I didn't make it. And the first thing I wanted to do was just to tell you thank you so much. The opportunity that you personally gave me, allowing me to come to work directly for you in your office was invaluable. I mean, I've thought about it a lot. I was Judge's constituent service director for a little bit over 4 years. And as I reflected on that, typically it takes someone about 4 years to graduate from high school or 4 years to graduate from college. So I have a degree in Nelson Wolfe. But just to comment a little bit on one of the things that Judge did not mention that he was able to do. I thought about it even more so. And when you mentioned collaboration, that Judge started when I was working for him, the Suburban Cities Coalition, where he would meet once a quarter with the mayors of the 26 other cities. And I bring that up because when we talk about the amazing work that Judge and Mayor Nuremberg did during COVID pandemic, a lot of it was additionally made smoothly because of the way Judge was able to include our neighbors in those 26 cities. And it's not something that you can always see out front, but the stuff behind the scenes makes it tremendously successful. And Judge, that never would have happened without your personality, the respect that all of those folks had for you. I would say to the group that, so Judge, he went and did a couple like swearing ins. He swore in some of the police chiefs. And so I would get there before Judge would, and I would hear folks say, oh, Judge Wolff is coming and he's going to swear me in, and all of those things, just by sheer effectiveness of him as a policy maker, but him by way of his personality. And I would end, Judge, just by saying that, as I've shared to close friends of mine and my family, there was never, not one single meeting that Judge had in his office that I could not go to. He opened the door up to me totally. And all I can say is I was wise enough to take advantage of it. I was taking notes like you cannot believe. So I just want to steal the moment and just personally say thank you so much, Judge, for the opportunity that you gave me. And it's not yet done because I know we will continue to do some work together in the future. Amongst other things, I was meeting with Mayor Cisneros about my role as chair of the ML King Commission and some of the stuff that I'm doing. And he said, Nelson Wolfe, you need to get him involved. So thank you, Judge.
Well, thanks, Dwayne, for the work you did. Yeah, most people don't really think about it, but we have 26 or so other cities in Bexar County. So we would meet with them quarterly, and too often they were overlooked. And they do a good job out there. But you don't hear too much about them unless they do something wrong.
I don't know, Judge, if you've been kind of watching chat, but you've been getting different comments and kind of kudos there. Sister Martha Ann Kirk said that you're everyone's uncle, that's that kind of thing. But I want to tell a small story from the gang summit in '94. And it wasn't so small. In fact, this is when you stole my heart. But we had 14 gangs who came together at that time. And to come together, they were promised that there would be no guns on site, none. And so that they would feel safe, right? And the most declarated police officer, I think, in the state, that's how I recall the story, but he showed up in full uniform and, of course, then had a gun, right? And so rather quickly, that went throughout the summit of like, there's a gun on site. And you went to him with a summit T-shirt. And you asked him, and told him, you need to remove your gun. And he was like, but I'm in uniform. And you said, well, I can give you this T-shirt. If you want to put that on, then we would be just fine. And he decided to leave. I don't know if you remember that, but and I think maybe he went home and changed or something. But I don't know, there was just something, you could have so easily in your position just ignored all of that going on, but you didn't. And you offered him a shirt. And it's such a simple, it's an act of nonviolence, such a simple act. And yeah, that's when you won my heart. So thank you for doing that. And you've stepped forward so many times in things that we've done throughout the years as a civic leader, but with the faith community. There was a gathering, this has been a while too, but down at City Center where you and I think it was Father David Garcia convened Soul of a Citizen, but that was faith and civic leaders coming together, and so much has grown out of that. San Antonio Peace Laureates, continual conversation, civic engagement by faith leaders. Man, you've got plenty to look back on and say it's been good, and it has been good. It's not been always easy, but it's been very good.
Well, you haven't quit yourself, and you know that was that. Remember that, I forgot when it was, but you had that heart ceremony on the hemisphere for all the people that we had lost. I think we lost, well, it was over 5,000 people in Bexar County died from COVID, and you had a heart ceremony, which was
the memorial. And at that time, our numbers were almost 3,500.
Yeah,
almost. And you know, he looked at me and said, "Yeah, well, we keep showing up." And that's probably for me, you know, speaking to leaders, keep showing up. That's keep showing up.
Good way to say it.
Keep showing up. Yeah. So, well, I want to invite Doug has his hand up. Doug?
Yeah, I have a question. Judge Wolff talked earlier about what's going on in Austin. But so what I see is, and I think you commented on it, is the funding mandates, or the funding that in effect gets pushed down from the state to the counties. Texas ranks 50th among states in funding per capita for mental health. There are so many holes in our safety net. There's so many programs that need to be funded. How can the county begin to pick up part of that? What is the strategy that you recommend moving forward so that we can make some headway here?
There's one piece of it, Doug, and I'm still a little confused exactly how it's going to work. But Bexar County was the first county in Texas to sue the opioid industry. And because of that, we've already received, I think, I don't know, $2 to $4 million or so. We'll be getting some more very quickly. And all that's going to mental health programs, and it will be more money coming. The part that the state, and we had a lot of controversy over it, those funds are going to come through I think the Attorney General's office. The bulk of them, we're getting extra because we filed the lawsuit, but the bulk of it's going to go through the state, and that's divided into the health regions. I forgot how many there are, and it appears they've pretty well isolated away from politics in terms of the distribution. So there's going to be a lot of money distributed there over the next few years that has to go to these programs, and they don't have, the control over spending it on something else. So that would be something that needs to be followed up on. Now, whether they do in their general appropriations, any other funding that would be available for mental health and other issues, they talk the game. It's one thing to talk the game, is the other is to do it. The one thing that the governor has said that does make sense, well, it's a mental health issue that we're facing with some of these violent shootings that have occurred at schools, and we're going to put more money into mental health. Well, I don't know. I don't have much confidence in them doing the right thing, but you could. And he said that, and of course, maybe we can hold him to it. But it's the guns that to me is the tragedy of this whole thing. the guns, the violence they see over social media, the distortions and the conspiracy theories, and but they won't ever address the gun issue. NRA's got them by the throat, and they're never going to do anything.
Well, that's not a very positive note to end on.
Not on the guns. It is.
Because that's what brought you and
Well,
I
you may
together
remember,
30 years ago.
you may remember from the 90s, we had a big fight with NRA, and you were there. We closed out all the gun shows, and we put fines on people for having a gun within the city and firing it or something. We did about 4 or 5 different things back then. Of course, now the legislature's taken all that authority away, of course. They're such gun nuts. And the AR-15, I mean, they're meant to kill people. I mean, it's just madness. But it's the guns everywhere, everywhere. Somewhere like the old West, get you a gun and defend yourself, you know. It's crazy, I think.
Well, we're going to end this on your advice. So I'm sure everybody has a mug or something this morning. So I invite you to raise it. I invite you to raise it. And instead to the madness we're kind of ending on, I'm going to make a toast to your sanity and your strong leadership, your faithful commitment, your model to all of us. And I'm sure Paul is going to tell us when you receive that national award, and we'll make sure and send all sorts of love your direction. So thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you for your years. We're very grateful.
Thank you all of you for what you're doing. All right, we'll see you, Ann. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks for being with us.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.